China's J-20, a blatant rip-off of the F-22 and F-35? There may be more unknown details of relevance to the Chinese J-20 fifth-generation stealth fighter than there are known specifics, but the People's Liberation Army has been writing about its J-20 in various aspects for many years, so there are a handful of key relevant observations to make about the extent of the threat it may pose. J-20, to what extent is it a threat? At first glance, U.S. congressional reports and Pentagon trials have deemed the stealthy airframe to be what might be called a transparent copy of fifth-generation U.S. stealth technology. This possibility, and the visible similarities in stealthy configuration between the J-20 and the F-35 and F-22, have been cited in several Pentagon reports, all as part of a long-standing and publicly documented concern about the Chinese theft of U.S. military technology. The J-20 appears stealthy, having a standard stealth blend wing body shape, rounded fuselage, little to no protruding structures that could generate a returning radar signature, and what appears to be an internal weapons bay devoid of pylons. External. Although many have drawn comparisons between the J-20 and the F-35, the J-20's apparently twin-engine setup looks a bit like the F-22. Also, the J-20's twin wings are nothing like the F-35's. In addition, the J-20's twin-wing configuration is somewhat different from existing F-22 or F-35 designs, as its twin-wing fuselage is longer and larger than that of U.S. airliners' fifth generation. Although available specifications published by AeroCorner say the J-20 is almost 5 meters longer than the F-22, the biggest differences appear to be the maximum takeoff payload and fuel capacity. According to AeroCorner, the length of the J-20 is 23 meters, while that of the F-22 is 18.9 meters. AeroCorner reports that the J-20 flies with a fuel tank of 4,166 gallons, compared to 2,400 for the F-22. This disparity translates into enormous autonomy. This disparity translates into a huge difference in range, as the J-20 has a range of almost 3,000 kilometers more than the F-22. According to the spec sheet, the J-20 can reach a range of 5,926 kilometers, which puts Taiwan very close to mainland China, while the F-22 has a range of 2,963 kilometers. However, with two unarmored external fuel tanks, an F-22 can travel more than 1,864 kilometers, although an aircraft in this configuration will compromise air combat capability and speed. As a longer, twin-winged stealth fighter, the J-20 is probably much less maneuverable than an F-22 and, therefore, less likely to challenge the Raptor for air supremacy in air-to-air combat. However, once over the target area, the J-20 seems to have a much higher payload capacity to drop munitions. One reason the J-20 is so much slower than the speedy F-22. The specifications indicate that the speed of the F-22 is 1,963 knots and that of the J-20 1,333 knots. The payload is also vastly different, as the J-20 can take off with 27,998 pounds of internal and external weaponry, while the F-22 can take off with a fraction of that amount, 3,915 pounds. This would suggest that a lighter and faster air-to-air fighter like the F-22 would be well positioned to destroy a J-20 in the air relatively quickly and effectively, depending on the range and fidelity of the weapon sensors, the precision targeting, and aiming technology. Even the F-35, a multi-role fighter with more payload than an F-22, operates with a takeoff payload of 18,000 pounds of internal and external weapons. This means that a J-20 can operate with longer dwell times over target areas, drop a much higher percentage of bombs in a given mission, and certainly go thousands of miles further in terms of range unless an F-22 flies with low stealth external fuel tanks. Powertrain comparisons also seem to heavily favor the F-22, although Chinese newspapers report that the J-20 is now built with a domestically produced WS-15 engine, the first of its kind. Although it is unclear to what extent this influences performance, it seems unlikely that a J-20 could rival an F-22 in the air. It may not be well equipped to challenge an F-35 either, although a true comparison between the F-35 and F-22 with the J-20 may depend on lesser-known variables such as the range and accuracy of its sensors, targets, and weapons. For example, the F-35 is known to fly with sensors that allow it to see and destroy enemy fighter jets at unprecedented distances. Therefore, if the J-20 were unable to match this distance, it would be very vulnerable to an F-35 or F-22, regardless of its maneuverability and weaponry. Should a J-20 be spotted before it can spot an F-22 or F-35, other variables will no doubt matter less. Second, the accuracy of guidance, search, or course correction of air-to-air weapons would also likely be a deciding factor. Ultimately, all of this is likely to depend on the ability of the aircraft to network with other nodes across multiple domains and operate with high speed, potentially AI-enabled mission and computing systems. The answer to these lesser-known variables can determine which aircraft will ultimately be superior. Conclusion. This might suggest that the U.S. Air Force and Navy would do well to find and destroy the J-20s in the air before they overfly target areas where they could be positioned to use a large bomb-dropping capability to attack them. In order to inflict damage or overwhelm air defenses with numerous attacks by aircraft. Thanks for watching.